Well, tomorrow is the start of World Breastfeeding Week, and to mark the global occasion, we've invited two very special guests in today.
Louise Dersma is a lactation consultant, registered nurse and spokesperson for the Australian Breastfeeding Association, and Tizzie Hall is the best-selling parenting author behind Save Our Sleep and Save Our Sleep Feeding.
Ladies, good morning to you both.
Hi.
Welcome to you. We've got so much to get through. Louise, there's so much focus on birth and delivering a baby safely. Do you think parents need to be more focused on a plan for what happens after the birth?
Well, what happens during birth is really important, so it's important to prepare for that. But as soon as the baby's born, it's put skin to skin with its mother and starts looking for the breast. And so it's important to know about breastfeeding and parenting before the baby comes, so you're ready for those little obstacles that might get in the way. Australian Breastfeeding Association has breastfeeding education classes, which are a fabulous way for mums and their partners to learn about breastfeeding.
Yeah, nothing ever really prepares you though, does it?
No, I think we all think we're going to get the perfect baby. And
oh yes, and then only we do. Like, every mother thinks she's got the perfect baby.
Yes.
Tizzie, it's fair to say that some mums find some of your methods controversial, and a lot of mums absolutely swear by your methods. I guess it's fair to say different things work for different people.
That's a really interesting question, because looking at social media yesterday and last night when you guys put something up about me coming on, that's what it looks like. But I don't read any of that, and a lot of people don't read stuff about themselves on the internet. What I find really interesting is that the Save Our Sleep series is the #1 parenting baby shower gift. So nearly everyone gets one as baby shower gift, and things like Kensington Palace requested a copy from Meghan Markle. So even though people say it's controversial, I don't see it. And going back to the support thing, I found that lots of parents weren't getting breastfeeding support. So we opened up this breastfeeding hub in Geelong, and it's been absolutely amazing. And I'm so thankful, because we opened it up 6 months ago, and mothers were coming in thinking that they didn't want to breastfeed, they were scared of breastfeeding, and we've been able to help them breastfeed. And now, 6 months down the track, these mums are coming back fully breastfeeding. And they were mums who didn't even think they were going to breastfeed. So the support is needed. The Australian Breastfeeding Association do a great thing. But with the hub, they can rock up, walk in. We had a grandmother walk in the other week and say, "Here's the baby. We can't handle it anymore." We have comfy chairs, and we're just there for a cup of tea.
Tizzie, you're a big advocate for routine. Some parents find that overwhelming in the early days, right? How do you suggest mothers implement some sort of strict structure?
I'm an advocate for breastfeeding, and in the ideal world and society, I would want everybody to breastfeed on demand. All of my routines say to breastfeed on demand during the night, not to routine feed. Years ago, when people did routines, when my mum's age did routines, people's breast milk dried up. So you've got to be very careful when you're talking about routines with breastfeeding. The difference the reason why I have routines, not in this book, this is the feeding book, and this is you can demand feed using this book. The other book has routines in it. The reason being is, the way society is now, you need to demand feed, but you need to feed your baby when it cries a hungry cry. The reason I suggest some mums use the routines is to learn the cries. So when the baby cries, they look at the routine and go, "Oh, my baby's due a sleep, that's the tired cry. Oh, my baby's due a feed, that's a hungry cry." But if the baby's doing the hungry cry, you don't say, "Don't feed the baby," because you would feed the baby if it's a hungry cry. So the routines help the parents to interpret the cries, but you've got to be very, very careful, because if you were to put a baby on a 4-hour feeding routine from day one, the mother's breast milk would dry up, and you wouldn't want that.
I think it's important to know that breastfeeding is more than nutrition. So it's about comfort. It's about closeness. There's not much that a breastfeed's not going to fix. So if you're tired, have a breastfeed. The cholestyrekinins in the breast milk will help the baby go to sleep. If you're cold, you're hot, all of those things will work together to make the baby feel more settled. So, you know, a baby can feed as often as they need to, and we know that most little babies need 8 to 12 feeds at least in 24 hours. So it's full on, and it's hard work. But, you know, it's feeding your baby whenever they need it, and you can't overfeed a breastfed baby, so it's really important to know that.
Something that you just mentioned about feeding to sleep, this is something, a big myth with breastfeeding. Lots of people come to me and say, "Oh, such and such said to give my baby a bottle of formula last thing at night." It's like, that doesn't work. If you give a breastfed baby a bottle of formula last thing at night, right, It's like you going out and having a roast dinner at 9 o'clock at night. You wake up in the middle of the night starving. It has the opposite effect. Breast milk helps a baby to sleep, right? It has a hormone in it which helps a baby to sleep, right? If you're giving a fully breastfed baby 1 bottle of formula a day, don't do it before bedtime. All you're going to do is encourage that baby to wake up and be more unsettled at night. It's not something which I would recommend, and lots of people do recommend it. And if you really want your baby to have a bottle a day, like if you want dad to be able to give a bottle, or you're going back to work and you want to give a bottle, express breast milk is ideal. I'm not saying I'm against formula. Some people choose formula, need formula, there's a place for formula in society. I'm saying if we're talking about breastfeeding, it's breastfeeding week, don't throw a bottle of formula in. It actually, at last thing at night, it unsettles your baby.
Would you agree?
Yes, I would totally agree with that. You know, and we know that breast emptying is really important for milk supply. And so in the evening is the only time that the breast really empty because you have less volume in the evening. So the baby needs to really empty those breasts so that they can send out the message for the breasts to be full the next day. And so adding a bottle of formula in that evening really messes with that supply and demand issue.
Can we talk about postnatal depression, anxiety and depression? We know more than 1 in 7 new mums experience some form of feeling like this. What's your advice, Tizzie?
Well, this is why we've set up the hub, and it would be fantastic. It's a free service, and it would be fantastic if every town in Australia had a hub. We set it up for breastfeeding mothers, but we've actually had the elderly coming in and sitting down and joining us. You need to talk, you need to chat, you need a good old-fashioned cup of tea. Women need to be able to come somewhere and say, I'm struggling. I was a career mum. I myself, I worked 24/7 and suddenly I had these babies and you feel a bit cut off, you know? We need places in society where women can go and say, I need help. I just need to have a cup of coffee. I need somebody to hold my baby. We've set it up. It's a free service for the community. I wish every town in Australia would do the same.
Well, that's what mothers groups are for. We've had mothers groups
but they're
here.
set times. We need an open door policy where people can go somewhere and just walk in at any time, day or night, and say, I can't cope.
It's about having a cheer squad, really. And, you know, you need those people around you cheering you on, helping you out. You know, you need Australia Breastfeeding Association. We've got a 24-hour breastfeeding helpline. We've got an ABA live chat where you can get on and talk to one. And next week we've got some new initiatives coming out for Breastfeeding Week that are really exciting. So, you know, mums need that support, and that's what helps them through. They want to breastfeed, but they need to get that right help to do it.
And on that note, we also, maybe we need a bottle feeding line. I know it's breastfeeding week, but bottle feeding parents also get depressed.
Yeah.
Well, as you said a little earlier, we put this on the internet yesterday. We're going to swap with questions of all sorts. So we need you to stick around for just a little while. And you stick around too, because after the break, our panel answering your questions about breastfeeding. Don't go away.
Well, Louise and Tizzie are still with us, marking World Breastfeeding Week starting tomorrow.
And we asked our viewers, you, to send breastfeeding questions in. Now, it's very personal. Many mothers experiences challenges with breastfeeding, but we'd love to get your advice, ladies.
Yeah.
So Alice wants recommendations for simple, easy foods that will help with the supply of breast milk. Louise, what do you think?
Well, breastfeeding works on a system of supply and demand. So if a baby is feeding well, a mother should be able to produce all she needs for that baby. So it's important to make sure the baby's feeding well. If the supply needs to increase, you increase the feeds and that will increase the supply. There isn't any magic foods that will do that. The milk needs to come out to be remade, and that's the most important part of it.
Okay.
So what I find really, I've got good news about that is, in the Save Our Sleep feeding book, I have 2 recipes. One recipe is for breastfeeding cookies to help you increase your breast milk supply, and one recipe is for a milk drink. Now, what's absolutely fantastic is, what we were talking about earlier, when you have a baby, it's really important to hold them, cuddle them, bond with them, skin-to-skin contact. Who's got time to make cookies? Well, Pinky McKay, who is a really well-known lactation consultant, she's used my recipe, it looks the same as mine, but she has got the recipe, she's made the cookies. You can actually buy the cookies straight from Pinky McKay, that's in this book. You don't have to make them.
No, you get your friend to make them. You get your mother-in-law to make them.
Pinky's already made them.
No, you get someone to make them for you.
She's done the work for you. Or you get your friend to make them. But the cookies increase your milk, which is really good. And the feedback we're getting on the milk drink and the cookies And I think Pinky calls them booby cookies.
Booby cookies?
Really
okay.
good.
Okay.
I think that the evidence doesn't support food as increasing your milk supply, though. So you know, it's nice to have a nice cookie with a coffee, and the placebo effect of things is fabulous. So but
Maybe
if we
there's
go to the
something-
evidence.
Okay. Moving on, Samantha wants to know, how do you know if your baby is getting enough milk? Tizzie, how can you tell?
I think you look at the baby, and it's impossible to tell if a breastfed baby is getting enough milk. People think, but it isn't impossible, because the mum's going to be happy, the baby's going to be happy. A lot of people worry that the baby isn't getting enough milk. As I was saying earlier, we've got this hub. People come in and they say to me, oh, how do I know if my baby's getting enough milk? Well, if your baby is sleeping well, your baby's settled, if you're getting those, if your baby's able to go roughly now we're talking about an 8-week-old baby, not a brand new baby, roughly 3 to 4 hours between feeds in the day, they are getting enough milk. And as we were talking earlier about milk supply, I say in my books, like especially once a day, it's a good idea if you sit with your baby, talking about increasing the supply, if you sit with your baby on your chest, cuddling your baby and let them sleep there for at least one sleep of the day, we call it a nap at 4:30 in the afternoon, it helps your supply. And you'll know if your baby isn't getting enough food because they'll be crying all the time.
Okay. Louise, we didn't agree on the cookies. Do you agree with this?
Well, I think the most important way to tell your baby's getting enough milk is at least 5 heavy wet nappies a day, and in a little baby, several poos a day. As they get older, there'll be less poos, and it's more important what they look like when they get over 6 weeks. But in a little baby, lots of poos, lots of wees, and that's your definitive way to know the baby's getting enough. And babies can be unsettled for all sorts of reasons, not just for milk, for getting enough milk.
Now, finally, Jennifer has said she's been told to stop pumping due to oversupply. Okay, Tizzie, she wants to know if she can demand feed overnight.
I would say always. I would never ever suggest not to demand feed overnight. If a baby has the correct bedding, they'll sleep well at night and they'll wake up looking for a feed and you feed them. And you should always feed a baby on demand at night.
Louise?
Yeah, totally agree. So as I said before, 8 to 12 feeds is quite common. So you're going to need some of those at night or you'll be feeding all day. So really important to feed a baby to need. I don't like to call it demand. We're feeding a baby what it needs, because sometimes little babies won't demand everything they need, and we might need to wake them to give them what
That's
they
a
need.
very good point.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that we ended on it. We ended on nicely. Terrific. Thank you so much. I know so many of our viewers really wanted to hear what you had to say. Both of you had to say. It's been terrific to have you on the show. Thank you for you at home for all your input and for hitting us up on Facebook with all of your questions. Only a certain amount of time.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. We could talk all day.
For more
I've
information...
forgotten so much.
Really?
Don't forget.
Yeah, you do.
And now you know. Now you're ready for your next baby.
I know.
For more information and resources, check out the great work done by the Australian Breastfeeding Association. All the details on our website.
And for our Melbourne viewers, Tizzie recently opened Hub in Geelong, a breastfeeding centre, and she spoke about it. A retail store that offers advice for families. Those details are also on our website. Thank you.
I'm going to get you some cookies for your milk, Dal.
I'm going to check your diapers.